The Ant and the Grasshopper. Once upon a time, in a grassy meadow, there lived a hard-working ant named Andy and a carefree grasshopper named Greg. Andy was always busy, working from dawn until dusk, gathering food and building up his nest. Greg, on the other hand, spent his days singing, playing his fiddle, and hopping from flower to flower, enjoying the sun without a care in the world. One sunny morning, as Andy was carrying a heavy grain of wheat on his back, Greg hopped over and laughed. "Andy, why are you always working so hard? It's such a beautiful day. Come sing with me and dance in the sunlight." But Andy shook his head and replied, "Greg, winter will be here before we know it. I have to gather food now while it's still warm and plentiful, or I won't have enough to last through the cold season." Greg rolled his eyes. "Oh, you worry too much. There's plenty of time. I'll just find food later. Right now, I want to play." So while Andy continued to work, Greg spent his days dancing, singing, and relaxing in the sun. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months, and before long, the warm weather began to fade. The trees lost their leaves, and the air became crisp and cold. Winter was coming. One chilly day, as the first snowflakes began to fall, Greg hopped around the meadow looking for food, but everything was covered in a thick blanket of snow. He hadn't saved anything for himself, and now he was very hungry. Shivering and feeling sorry for himself, Greg thought of his friend Andy. Maybe Andy had saved some food. So he made his way to the ant's cozy little nest. When Andy opened his door, he was surprised to see Greg standing there looking cold and hungry. "Andy," Greg said with a sigh, "I didn't save any food, and now I have nothing to eat. Could you please help me?" Andy thought for a moment. Greg had been carefree and playful all summer while he worked hard, but he felt sorry for his friend. "I'll share my food with you, Greg," Andy said kindly, "but on one condition." Greg's eyes widened. "Anything, Andy. I'll do anything." Andy nodded. "Next summer, you'll work alongside me to gather food. That way, when winter comes, you'll have plenty for yourself. It's important to prepare for the future and not just think about today." Greg agreed, and for the rest of the winter, he stayed with Andy, helping where he could. When summer returned, Greg remembered his promise. He helped Andy gather food, build a bigger nest, and prepare for the next winter. He still sang and danced, but now he knew the importance of balancing work with fun. From that time on, Greg learned to be responsible, and he was never hungry in winter again.